Summertime brought many visitors to Duck and Oliver's branch line. They bustled about taking passengers to the beach and the small railway. It was hot, hard work, but the engines didn't complain. They left that to someone else. With the influx of holidaymakers, Bulstrode had been moved to the beach on the Little Weston. Children played in him all day and had a lovely time. Bulstrode grumbled relentlessly, and while the children took no notice, the engines grew irritated. One afternoon, Oliver stopped at a station by the beach. Cheerful passengers spilled out of Isabel and Dulcie. Bulstrode began muttering. "Whatever you're complaining about, stow it," said Oliver crossly. "You'll spoil everyone's day."
"Always concerned about the passengers," grumbled the barge. "When's anyone going to check on old Bulstrode, huh?"
"What's there to check on?" quizzed Oliver.
"I should be out in the sea being useful, not babysitting rotten little tykes."
Suddenly, Oliver had an idea. "Especially you do keep an eye on them. We don't need another seaside spectre around here."
"What are you talking about?"
"Driver told me. It's a local legend," smirked Oliver. A woman lost her son at sea, and every night she waits for him by the shoreline. When he doesn't return, she whips up the winds and makes the waves crash.
"Pull the other one,"
grunted Bulstrode.
"You silly engine in your imagination."
"Think what you like," finished Oliver. "But I'd be on your guard tonight." Later, Oliver told Duck all about it at the top station. "You shouldn't joke about such things," said Duck sternly. "You know as well as I do that it's only folklore," replied Oliver. "Maybe so," frowned Duck, "but it's not nice to talk about." "There's no harm in it," smiled Oliver. "Besides, I reckon it'll keep Bulstrode quiet for a while." Oliver was right. The next morning, Bulstrode hardly made a peep. He looked rather skittish. "Doesn't he seem closer to the water than yesterday?" wondered the driver. "Looks the same to me," said Oliver. "But perhaps the spectre paid him a visit last night." "Don't be horrid! Don't be horrid!" fussed Isabel and Dulcie. As the days went by, the driver's suspicions were confirmed. Bulstrode seemed to be inching down the beach.
Please pull me back. She'll drag me into the sea," he pleaded.
"Oh, don't be daft," snorted Oliver. No matter how he tried to deny it, Oliver saw Bulstrode getting further down the beach every day. There must be a reason, he thought, and I'm going to find out what. One evening, Douglas was feeling unwell. He was scheduled to take a late train of ballast to the junction. Oliver saw his chance and asked if he could take the train. "If you wouldn't mind," conceded Douglas. "But take yon Toad with ye. He'll say you have no trouble." When darkness fell, Oliver set off with the trucks. They're well behaved, but Oliver wasn't paying attention to them. He was eager to get to Bulstrode's beach. Soon the station came into view. The wind began to blow and the sound of crashing waves echoed all around. They were passing the platform when Oliver's brakes came on with an almighty screech. "Ouch!" groaned the trucks as they banged into each other. "Beg pardon, Mr. Oliver, but is there something wrong? We're not meant to stop here," quizzed Toad. "Look!" shrilled Oliver. Bulstrode had slid from the beach and was floating lopsided as the waves threw water onto his deck. On the shore there was a figure of a pale woman. She stared coldly at Bulstrode, walked towards the sea, and disappeared into the wind.
"Help! Help! I'm going to sink!"
shouted Bulstrode. "Mr. Oliver, what's happening?" asked Toad. "He's in the water!" cried Oliver. "We must help!" Oliver's driver raised the alarm. By the time the floating cranes arrived, the wind and waves had calmed completely. Bulstrode was lifted onto a salvage barge, and a tugboat towed him away. For the first time in weeks, Bulstrode was speechless. Oliver returned very late to the shed. He found Duck waiting for him. "How was your evening, Ren?" he asked knowingly. Oliver said nothing. He just looked at his buffers. "It's nothing more than folklore, isn't it?" smirked Duck, before promptly falling asleep. Oliver was ashamed. He didn't know what to think, but he did know he owed Bulstrode an apology. Sadly, he never got the chance. Bulstrode was overcome by his ordeal and refused to go back to the Little Western. He was moved back to his old shore on Thomas's branch line. No one bothers him now, but sometimes you will find him gazing silently across the water. I wonder if Bulstrode will ever meet his seaside spectre again. Don't you? Alright, finished. I'm sorry. Message from God's Van. If this gets in the video, I don't care. This is my first time narrating a story. I hope I did well. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you didn't, that's all good. First time. The amount of outtakes you probably aren't going to hear unless Funny Tidmouth Depot puts in this video. I mean, he might not even put this in the video, and that's totally okay. But thank you for listening to the story.